Evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live once again for Empire's State of Baseball. This is episode number 150. We've hit the big 150 here at ESB. This is Monday, December 8th of the year 2025, airing on Instagram, X, YouTube, and powered by StreamYard. Well, guys, it's pretty hard to believe we hit 150 episodes already. I mean, again, we say this, I feel like every big milestone feels like we've just been doing this, maybe like 2 years now. No, here we are. We're in the off season, 150th overall. We're already through 4 full seasons of Empire State of Baseball. And it's a very fun time of year, too. Winter meetings. You look at the baseball calendar, especially if your team is not good and the postseason is something you don't have to look forward to as a baseball fan. Outside of opening day, I think this is the best week of the baseball calendar as a whole. And even though there's no baseball being played, unless you're following very closely in some of the Spanish leagues, which have been pretty entertaining, so a lot of highlights. It's such a fun time of year. A lot of moves get done. Every once in a while, you get the dud one. I know a couple years back, it's like nothing happened. And then every once in a while, you get the crazy ones where every 30 minutes you're getting something big. So, Joe, I see we got a little Teddy here tonight, too. How you guys doing, both of you, on this fine evening?
He's always shy when the camera starts, then he starts losing it. But he is not long for this world. He had a couple shots today, but we're good. We're hanging in there. Teddy's just making sure he's keeping up with the phone, making sure he's seeing if there's any breaking news heading our way.
Oh, yeah.
So he is sitting there scrolling through Twitter as we speak. And that's his job right now. So
Teddy is as reliable as some of the sources that claim they have news throughout these winter meetings right now, at least the early portion of this winter meetings. But yeah, Corey, to your point, very exciting time for baseball fans here, especially if we see activity. Day one was Sunday. Inactivity, which is normal. It's those preliminary talks and interview spots that we usually see on that first day. So nothing to really report on there. Today, couple minor moves. I saw Mike Soroka as a Diamondback. There's some rumblings around Brendan Donovan that I've been catching as of late with the Yankees. But outside of that, nothing really crazy to happen here. But Tom, hopefully in the next 57 or so odd minutes, we get some news we can break here on the show.
It would be fun. It feels like, I don't know, it doesn't seem that there's a lot of smoke out there right now. Usually you get the so-and-so is close type tweet. I haven't really seen any of that. No. To be fair, my Twitter feed has just been taken over by Notre Dame not making the playoff. So I wouldn't even know if anything else came up because Elmo's algorithm it's just this. It's just
you would be a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, we're raised a Catholic boy, and it's literally just it's all the tweets I say. So if something happens, I need to be told.
Yeah, the Catholic, shout to Jesus. Tom, speaking of Notre Dame's got to have some good rollback grub, right? I would think
they do. They're definitely in the shop in that collegiate collection. And listen, guys, we are. Like 2.5 weeks to Christmas, something like that. So if you're looking for some of those last minute gifts for someone in your family, head over to Roback because you're going to be putting quality under the tree or under the menorah or under whatever kind of holidays you celebrate with some Roback. Got some warm stuff. The sweatshirts, the vests, the full jackets, pants, or if you want to kind of dream for those spring and summer days again, load up on the polos, the t-shirts, some of the bathing suits as well. Roback.com, promo code TWASPL15, get yourself 15% off of your first order.
Yeah, definitely recommend everyone go ahead, use that TWASPL code. Roback's phenomenal. My class is full of them. Highly recommend the brand. So if you haven't done so already, or if you have in the past, find another email. Everyone's got a bunch of emails. Go ahead and use TWASPL15 for 15% off. Anyway, we do got a pretty good show tonight. Let me tell you, it's again one of my favorite weeks of the baseball calendar. It's actually a pretty good show. One of my favorite shows of the ESB podcast is looking at the yearly calendar, winter meetings. So we'll start off the show first, just kind of run through the week ahead and the things to look forward to at the winter meetings. But then for the second half of the show, we're going to really be jumping into our our off-season predictions. So I know there's been a few moves that have happened already, so putting those aside, taking a look at some of the top remaining free agent and trade targets who might be available, and we'll run through our list on those and predict where they may end up. For the trades, do they stay on the same team? Do they get traded? Who knows? Both of our teams have some free agents. Do we bring them back? Do they go elsewhere? Time will only tell. So we'll run through all of that momentarily. But again, starting at first with the MLB Winter Meetings. Rich, you mentioned it before. We kicked it off last night officially. Nothing big thus far. I know last season the Winter Meetings kicked off with the big Juan Soto news. So that was certainly something. So there's always potential for something Sunday night. But typically, I feel like Tuesday and Wednesday are the big days where you get some transactions. Monday, the first full day of activities. Tuesday, Wednesday is where the bulk of the action really is, though.
100%. And even though it was light on the transaction activity, it was not in baseball news, significant baseball news, because as we look down the pipeline and we see in the offseason calendar, the Baseball Hall of Fame announcement, specifically with the BBWAA, happens at the end of January. Well, we did find out a brand new member for Cooperstown, and it's been a long time coming. And Joe, I know you would love to touch on this guy right here. Jeff Kent officially inducted into Cooperstown. Maybe not official because that's technically out in July, but announced for the class of 2026. And there you see the accolades. NL MVP award winner, 5-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slug, and the all-time leader in home runs at the position of second base. Like I said, Joe, a long time coming. Jeff Kent is headed to Cooperstown.
Yeah, and it's I wonder why it took so long. People got caught up in the war.
People didn't like him. That's why.
In what?
Because people didn't like him. That's why it took so long.
Yeah, and people got caught up in the war. They got caught up in the defensive metrics, whatever it was. At the end of the day, when you're the all-time home run leader at the position, you have to be in the Hall of Fame. This is a guy, he's got 2,461.
Yeah, I think we all just lost Joe.
That's a tough
freeze frame right there.
Print.
Just somebody, please, for the love of God, take a screenshot of that. Tom, I know you're on the case right now.
Nah, I don't have the snag it button here.
But Joe, we're gonna have to let Joe go here because that's crazy.
That was a good one. I can tell you, Joe's Wi-Fi is not in the Hall of Fame.
I think we got him back though.
No, that wasn't even Wi-Fi. That was Google Chrome took a giant dump.
Ooh.
Right on my screen. So anyway, as I was saying, 2,400 hits, 560 doubles, 377 home runs, 1,500 RBIs, all-time home run leader at the position. He had 290 for his career. He slugged 500. Again, as a second baseman, offensively, you can make the argument he's the greatest offensive second baseman in baseball history.
Certainly.
And they kept him out because his defense was mediocre. So that blew my mind. And
I can't wait for the day that we look back and just laugh at how stupid the defensive analytic metrics are. It's laughable. Like we're just like, oh well, yeah, it says his range is 17.4, so that's just not good enough. It's so.
Find me a big game, and Kent played in plenty of them. Find me a big game where Jeff Kent wasn't, or Jeff Kent's defense cost him the game. Like find the game for me. Find the game. You know, the funny thing is we have Altuve right now as a second baseman, who's a bad second baseman. Has Altuve's defense ever cost the Astros in a big game?
Won a bunch with him.
Ever. And so what are we going to do? We're going to argue in 5 years from now when 10 years from now when Altuve has 2,800 hits and is closing the door to 3,000. Oh, well, his defense wasn't that good at second base. And compared to Jeff Kent, Altuve's a butcher at second base.
Well, he's also just a cheater, so he's going to get
forget that. So
it's hard to kind of forget that. He's a cheater and should have
at the end of the day, when I looked at this Golden Eras committee, I looked at the 8 candidates on board. I ultimately feel that I thought this was the one guy that you could say undisputed had to go in. The steroid guys, you can quibble about all you want. Fernando Valenzuela, Fernando Mania was great for the game, all that stuff, but he wasn't that great of a pitcher for a long period of time. He wasn't great. He was great for 2 or 3 years, and then he fell off. Mattingly and Murphy, now this is their third time on the Veterans Committee ballots. They've had 15 years on the writers' ballots. You can make an argument that either should get in. Murphy's a 2-time back-to-back MVP. Mattingly was a 1-time MVP. Both careers, their numbers largely fall short of your usual thresholds. And honestly, the person aside from Kent who should be the most positive is probably Carlos Delgado. Delgado got 9 votes. He was 3 votes away from getting in.
Wow.
So maybe he might get a second chance. But I felt ultimately this was the guy that needed to get in.
Well, he will, right? Because the rule is if you have to get 5 votes, and then unless you're dropped, because
right.
If you get less than 5, you are not eligible for the next era committee of that era. You have to wait another whatever it is. So
2031.
2031. The next one's between 27 and 28. So it's every 3 years.
Did Bonds get 5? I know he was like in that 5
Bonds
or
and
less.
Clemens aren't going to be on the next one.
Clemens, Sheffield, and Venezuela got less than 5. So that means now if they go on 31 and they get less than 5 again, they will never be elected. And right now it looks like they will never be elected. But that's the thing. And I think Mattingly and Murphy are also in retrospect, they really lost their chances of getting in. Mattingly's chance of making the Hall of Fame just went to near zero because this is his 3rd shot on a Veterans Committee, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he's going backwards. The last Veterans Committee, I think he got 8, 8 or 9, and now he's down to 6. I don't think either of those guys get in. And at the end of the day, the next Veterans Committee that's going to come on this era, they're going to turn around and be like, well, why should we put Don in the top 8? Because we've had him on there 3 times and he hasn't gotten in.
And we don't know who's going to join that group, you know, when that comes around in the next couple of years. So, but yeah, congratulations to Jeff Kent. We'll have more on the Hall of Fame in over a month's time. And by the way, for you folks that have filled out an ESBBWAA ballot, we thank you so much. We started to tally our ballots on December 1st. We got started early on the process this year. We usually start in January, but we said, you know what? Let's give it a month and a half. Let's try to hit a new goal in ballot collections. I think Corey Favs, if from last year you were running the polls, I think we're going to go back to the polls over the next few weeks as well. So there's going to be multiple ways to participate and vote on who you guys believe should be joining the class of 2026 as we have a lot of fun with the Hall of Fame exercise. And it's a lot of fun to do and kick off the 2026 year of baseball with and figuring out who's going to Cooperstown next. So congrats to Jeff Kent once again. All right, before we get into the rest of the winter meetings, I neglected to shout out the chat, so I just want to do that real quick. Shout out to Mike Pars, our guy. Will Stevie and Cash bring us gifts or coal for Christmas? Doesn't matter as long as you like and subscribe. Jacob Petruzzi, over under 5 minutes of screen time for Teddy. If you took the under, you won Jacob's stupid game. Shout out to Joey Bag of Donuts. He said, leave the jokes to the funny people, Jacob. Corey keeping the lights on. The weather's cold, but the stove is hot. Not thus far. Thus far, outside of the early portion of this winter meetings, again, more preliminary, it was a hot November. There was a lot of November action, and you got to think with the Lumen CBA at the end of 2026, a lot of folks wanted to figure out what they were doing with a full set of 162. So it was good to see a lot of activity in November, especially like right around the Thanksgiving holiday. Dylan Cease going to the Blue Jays, Josh Naylor re-upping with the Mariners, the big Mark Semien trade.
I don't think we can say it was hot stove. It was a warm stove.
Lukewarm stove. A lot of love here for Teddy. Shout out to Alana. Shout out to Brittany. Shout out to Chris Nieves. None of you know anything because I can guarantee the Yankees won't do that. Shout out to Chris with our inside jokes over at ESPNYY. Shout out to NFE. It's been a long time, man. Good to see you here. Shout out to the fellas. It's been a while. We have Hector in the building. We got Li in the building. So shout out to everybody who came out and joined us here. Joey, hello. Joe, Corey, Maverick. Hope all are well. I guess Tom is Maverick. I would assume Tom is Maverick by process of elimination, like that. All righty, let's get into the rest of the winter meeting. So not much to report on to start off, but here's the upcoming schedule. And you see that handsome son of a bitch, Scott Boras, he's got his finger on some kind of pulse. His face is going to be seen all around with his stupid jokes this time of year here during the winter meetings. But Scott Boras in our fold. But make sure to keep track of the latest and greatest with what's going on in baseball, because not only do you have some transactions, not only do you have that Hall of Fame announcement that I just mentioned before, you got the draft lottery tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. You have the Rule 5 draft, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. And then the final full day in Lake Buena Vista is December 11th. But enough of the scheduling. The more important thing I want to get into is our teams and their activity thus far and what's to come. And I'll start off with the New York Mets here. And for the New York Mets, as I mentioned, Devin Williams in the fold now, the Marcus Semien trades. The Mets are active this offseason thus far. But I'll go to Corey and then Joe here. With the winter meetings and obviously this being a big week for the baseball offseason, what do you expect the Mets to try to prioritize over these next couple of days? Are we going to see them re-up with Pete Alonso or Edwin Diaz? So what's your thoughts on the whole Mets landscape as we're in still a very early portion of this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, from the Mets side, there's definitely a few different ways they can go. I know they're still going to look at the bullpen. They brought in Devin Williams, but everything the Mets have been saying, they've been praising how Devin Williams is going to be a great high leverage reliever. They have not come out and flat out said he is our closer next year. And a big part of that tells me they are firmly still in Edwin Diaz, and we'll talk a little bit more on that later. And as far as our other free agent, Pete Alonso, I feel a little less confident on Pete coming back than Edwin. They clearly need a couple of bats too. They're not going to go into this season with Vientos as the everyday first baseman. They're not going to go into the season with Jeff McNeil as the everyday left fielder. I think there's a path both of them are on the team. At this point, I think Vientos is unless a couple of moves happen, I expect Vientos to probably start out either as DH, playing third and first as needed. I think there's a path. Jeff McNeil is still on the team in a super utility role, not penciled into an everyday starting position. So they clearly have to make some move on the offensive side of the baseball. But I won't be shocked if the next move that happens is with the starting pitching. And the reason I say that is the reason the Mets were where they were last season is because of the pitching. They were the best team in baseball through the middle of June because their starting pitching overperformed. And you were getting a lot of production out of guys like a Griffin Canning, for instance, who shouldn't have been performing the way he did. Kodai Senga had the lowest ERA in the National League before he got hurt in June. And then they completely tanked because the starting pitching couldn't get out of the fourth or fifth inning. And it was day after day after. I think it took them like 4 weeks to get a quality start from David Peterson. And then David Peterson fell apart. So I think it is going to be the starting pitching that gets addressed. A lot of different moves they could go this week, whether it's free agency, whether it's trade. But my gut feeling is that there's probably going to be some action on the starting pitching front. We'll just see how it shakes out this week.
Yeah, I mean, starting pitching's got to be the priority for them. Listen, I like the Williams deal if Williams is the setup guy, not the closer. I still think I think Corey's right. I still think they're in on Diaz. I don't think they're in on Diaz if it goes to a fifth year. But honestly, it's clear to me that Diaz doesn't have a fifth year on the table from anyone. So if that's the case, I think the Mets are going to remain in the run-in. I don't think there's any – we guys see if push comes to shove, the Blue Jays or the Dodgers, those are the two teams I've heard tied to them, will go to a fifth year. I don't know if that's there yet. I don't think the Mets are out on him by any stretch of the imagination. Devin Williams clearly wanted to stay in New York, whether that was with the Yankees or Mets. I don't think he wanted to leave New York. He had offers to be closer elsewhere, and he chose to stay here. I think that was a comfort fit, and the fact that Stearns already knows him from Milwaukee. Again, we'll see how he reacts. I'm hoping that we get the September and October version of Devin Williams that we saw last year, because that version of Devin Williams is a good pitcher. The first 4 months of the year, that version of Devin Williams was not a great pitcher. So there is some risk there, but there's also a lot of upside in Devin Williams because he's had the past of doing it before. He's got several good years of great baseball out of the pen. Last year was an exception. And I think that's what the Mets see in him. As far as the second priority, I mean, they got to get another bat in here. Whether that's Bellinger for left field or a Tucker or Alonso. I don't think they're in on Tucker. I think they're very in on Bellinger. I think they're very in on Alonso. They got to get another offensive piece in here because you cannot go into the season with Ronnie Mauricio, Mark Vientos, and Jeff McNeil and Tyrone Taylor all starting at the same time, right? Like your up the middle is fine. Semien, Lindor, Soto in right. Beatty is the third baseman. He's totally earned that. But they need another bat, and they need to go big game hunting on the pitching. I don't think it's going to be in the free agent market. I think it's going to be in the trade market. And to be honest, I don't blame them. I wouldn't sign Valdez for $200+ million or Ranger Suarez. So I think it's got to be a trade.
Tom,
go
ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, what I think is interesting is, like you guys were hitting on, they have to get an outfielder. You can't go into the season with like 48-year-old Jeff McNeil in left field and Tyrone Taylor. I know he plays a good center field, but like no, they can't both be in your starting outfield.
I agree.
What's interesting about the outfield market is there are the two headliners of Kyle Tucker and Cody Bellinger, and then after that, it really drops off. So, the Tucker seems one of the weirdest free agents of all time. I think last year people thought he was going to get close to $500 million. Now it seems like people don't know where the real market is for him. I know they're in on Bellinger. Yankees are as well. But after that, I don't know. I don't know what the move is. I think they would have to look to make a trade potentially because you always there's guys out there that can be moved that way. But if they don't get Bellinger, I think that has to be more of a priority than re-signing Alonso, because I think you can get by at least offensively if you believe in Mark Vientos. I don't think you can believe offensively in Tyrone Taylor and Jeff McNeil at this point, at least of Jeff McNeil's career.
Yeah, my thing that I want to talk about, and I was going to ask Tom your thoughts on losing Devin Williams to the New York Mets here, and kind of go off of that. But I can get to that. But here's the thing: I think the New York Mets signed their closer last week in Devin Williams, and I know there's a lot of Met fans. I know Joe mentioned that he prefers Devin to be in the 8th inning role, and Joe was really speaking positively of Devin Williams, a new player to the team, very exciting player. If everything is right. But this is also the same person who just about 6 months ago was saying how Pete Alonso broke Devin Williams. And now all of a sudden we're going to accept Devin Williams like nothing ever happened last October of 2024.
No,
but it's funny, Joe.
I'm not going to accept
It's funny where your energy completely changes when a certain player is adorning the blue and orange. It is kind of funny.
I'm not accepting him as my closer. I said as a
But he's going to be your closer. He's going to be your closer because there's no way, even with Steve Cohen's pockets, that they're going to pay $45 million for 2 back-end relievers. No shot. There's no way.
They can afford it.
It's a different game of baseball.
I don't think that's not even a Cohen thing.
It's not even sustainable.
It's
not sustainable.
It is financially, it is for him. I think this is a Stearns thing. I think this is him constantly. He sometimes is giving me in a different way, like a Brian Cashman Jr.-esque feel, where he feels like he's too smart for it. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else. You have all the money, just sign him. Well, I feel like he won't. He's gonna want to well, in Milwaukee, this is what we did.
Rich,
you're not in Milwaukee anymore. Just buy the players. That's the
if he's not paying. He's not paying a starting pitcher over $30 million. He's not paying a starting pitcher over $25 million.
Why not?
He probably should be, because that's where your needs are.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that at the end of the day, it's not like their pitching has a ton of salary married to it for a long-term deal. You're talking about a guy who's the best closer in baseball at the moment. At worst, maybe the second or third best on a bad day.
So just give him the money he wants.
That's what I'm saying. If that guy wants to come back, and I think it's clear that Diaz prefers to stay in that. If the Mets are in, I think if the Mets are in the same ballpark in terms of years as the Dodgers and everything, and nobody's willing to go to a 5th year and everybody's at 4 years, I think Diaz is going to be a bet. He's not going to up his life and move to LA for what, $500,000 a year and then pay California taxes, which are worse than New York taxes?
I'll say
I
this.
don't know.
Win.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When
You
it comes
yourself
to,
have also said money talks, and if
Money does
somebody
talk.
is going to leave money on the table,
But the
then maybe
money
they'll
has
sign
to-
with another team. I remember these conversations, Joe.
But Rich, the money
You
has
don't,
to
but
be
I do.
substantial. You know, like the money has to be, you know, there has to be a difference. If the Mets offer him 104 and the Dodgers offer him 106, he's going to stay with the Mets.
Go ahead,
Why
Corey,
would he
my
not
bad.
want to join
Yeah.
the two-time champs, though?
yeah. I mean,
Win
listen.
a ring.
Ultimately, too, when it comes to paying relievers in the back end, there's a reason why relief pitching is the most sought out position when it comes to the trading deadline. Because every team that's in the playoff hunt wants to make sure they can lock up those late innings. The baseball game today is very different than the baseball game we grew up with, where you were consistently getting 7 innings, potentially 8 innings of solid baseball from your starting pitcher. Now you're lucky if your guy gets through 6. You're lucky. And all of a sudden now you need these guys, you need your bullpen to get through 3 innings plus, probably getting 4 innings plus with a lot of games we've seen lately, especially in the playoffs, where teams do not hesitate to yank a guy in the 3rd inning if he looks off. And then you have to go bullpen the rest of the way. When you're going against a powerhouse like the Dodgers, I know the Phillies have a lot of guys in the free agent market right now, but they're always a high offensive team too. You know, if you make it to the World Series, if you're going against the Yankees, against the Blue Jays, all these teams that could score a bunch of runs, you're going to need those guys. And there's a reason why spend prospect capital and give up 2 of your top 5 prospects for a closer, and you can go ahead and just give up money. And this is the perfect time to do it. Bring back a guy who's clearly succeeded in New York with this franchise before. The fan base loves it. I think he genuinely loves it here too. Just spend the money.
Also,
I don't know if they're going to go 5 years. Meet in the middle. Go 4.
Also,
what's stopping you? Go 4.
Stearns has said himself. He said himself before he's still having a dialogue with Diaz. Why would he lie? Why would he lie about the Mets being out on him? To what point and purpose? If he signs his closer, he's like, nah, we signed our closer. I'm done. Why would he BS us in signing Edwin Diaz? What, to keep the fans off his back? He doesn't give a shit. Like, let's be real. The fan pressure is not going to change his job status at the moment. So to me, I think the Mets absolutely. I think the Mets are still in on Diaz. I think they're the favorite to bring Diaz back because what they've said that they're still in on him.
And I saw the same quotes as well. My whole stance, and it could be different from the 3 of you guys here. My whole stance has always been, I think getting into the $20 million threshold for relief pitchers is crazy. So to me, the way I saw the move interpreted, okay, you brought in a guy who's already familiar to the New York market, who had a great stretch run because he did. Devin Williams was great for us at the very end of the season there, Tom. And you went with a more sustainable asset in Devin, who's going to be making where's the $15-16 million year over year, which is still top shelf, but it's not 20. And those funds could be put more towards a front end starter, which is what I think you guys are ultimately missing on this team.
And you know this well. When you have the guy that's a top 3 closer in the game of baseball, you don't let him go. We know that. The Yankees played that game for
Let's not compare Edwin Diaz to Mariano.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
But Joe, the money has changed significantly since those 2000s to now. Mariano Rivera's money is like what Clay Holmes is making.
Well, look at when the Yankees built that pen with Britton and Miller, and then they brought Chapman over. The Yankees had $40 million.
But I could also push back and said I think the Yankees' best bullpen years is when they moved on from Chapman and tried to go for those diamond in the rough players that they found, and they got lucky and ran into a few good ones. And I could run down the whole list there. And they saved so much money going for back end. Look, and the Dodgers can afford it. The Dodgers still won a World Series, so no matter what the moves the Dodgers made, it worked out. But they penned Tanner Scott to a top shelf deal last year. Tanner Scott made no impact for the team come their playoff run.
Well, and that's why I can't see the Dodgers spending another $20 million on closer when they signed Tanner Scott. So, and if you're saying that the Dodgers are going to do it, I could say the Mets owner is as rich as the Dodger owner.
Oh,
So
the furls
their,
and all
their
that.
GM is
business,
more
but-
aggressive. Let's move on.
Let's move on. All righty. Moving on from the Mets side, we'll flip it over to the Yankees side of the house. Before we do that, a couple of new commenters trickled in while we were in the middle of that back and forth. Shout out to Mr. Name That Yank, who, whatever reason, mentions Cookie Carrasco. I don't know if he used Mr. Name That Yank today on Twitter, but he mentions Cookie Carrasco. Shout out to you. Shout out to Big Slick. Joe doesn't know ball. Hitman's in the building. What's good, Hitman? Our subscriber of the year, Hitman. Jordan Tyler. This Mets team isn't making the playoffs. And Phil from Shirley, is Joe wearing a rug? Are you wearing a rug?
it's a hoodie.
I don't know. He's always getting on you, man, for your attire. I don't know what's going on.
Oh,
there,
come on,
Joe.
we can see Corey's chest hair. Jesus.
What's wrong with
That's
Corey's
a-
chest there, man? That's a man right there.
Well, why
a
is he
real-
getting on me for wearing a rug when
fucking
Corey's
man right there.
chest is out?
All right, Tom, let's flip it. Let's talk about the New York Yankees. And I would say their activity, but I'd be lying because it's been relatively inactive since the qualifying offer was accepted by Trent Grisham almost a month ago at this point. Your projected roster is as follows, and it's maybe good. I mean, by Cashman's standards, he thinks this is good based on the pressers he had yesterday in Orlando. But Tom, is this a good roster?
No, I mean not particularly. The rotation I know right now is incomplete, but they're going to get Rodon back. They'll eventually get Cole back, and I think the rotation has the opportunity to be very good, to be one of the top rotations in baseball. And you know, I'd like to see me keep adding to it, add to your strengths, but we'll see on that. Yeah, I mean, in the field, you got Judge, obviously. You got Jazz. You got, Ben Rice, he's pretty locked in. McMahon's going to be there. Shortstop, I mean, starting with Caballero, just waiting, I guess, for Volpe to get back, because why not? The team needs to make moves, and I am pretty concerned at this point. In years past, Cashman has come out and said, like, we need a left fielder. We need this. We need that. And his comments this week have been, like, we're pretty happy with what we have. Cashman is a lot of things. One of them is he usually is pretty transparent. He does usually kind of tell you what he thinks about players and what they're going to go after. And maybe he's playing coy, but I feel like he might be telling the truth, and they're not going to make any big moves. And I think that is an issue. I don't think offensively this team has enough. I mean, if you're really counting on Ben Rice to take a step, for Trent Grisham to do what he did last year, for Dominguez to take a step, Jazz, he's been pretty consistent. You're hoping Ryan McMahon could find something. You're hoping Stanton stays healthy. You're hoping for a lot of step ups and, long shots, frankly. And I don't think that plays. I don't think that plays over 162. Where previous years, maybe some of their lineups and their roster construction wasn't the best for the playoffs, but it was good for a regular season. This team, I don't know. I mean, again, the starting pitching is there. I don't think offensively they got it.
I don't like it. I don't like it. If this is a playoff roster, this is a sweep in the wild card round playoff roster, and your season's done. I don't see. There's, again, it's very early, so we're going based off of essentially 3 re-signings here with Grisham, Yarbrough, and Hill. This team had issues with Cody Bellinger on it, and with Cody Bellinger off of it, you're putting, like you said, you're putting so much pressure again on the young core of kids on this team. You're hoping that Rice replicates what he does, and Rice had a great season. You're hoping Dominguez can finally play and step to another level. You're hoping, whether it's either if you're hitching your chariot to either Dominguez or Spencer Jones, you're hoping for a breakout campaign there. There's a lot invested right there. And you also, the biggest thing, and it's not pictured because they're not going to be available opening day, but what is going to be the makeup of your starting rotation by mid-season? What are you going to get out of Garrett Cole? What are you going to get out of Carlos Rodon when these guys come back? I can't believe Anthony Volpe took his non-throwing shoulder to get hurt for him to actually unlock his potential when everything gets cleaned up in 2026. So to me, this roster has a lot of issues. And And I look at that number in the bottom right-hand corner in that question that says, will they exceed the $304 million luxury tax here? Well, I'll tell you what, if they're looking to stay around that border, I don't know how much of their issues they're going to be able to correct this offseason. It's just, could you make the one or two moves that can get you to around that mid-season point where we can feel good about a trade deadline? Because as you've kind of made note to, we really aren't hearing that confidence from Brian Cashman. We're also just not hearing great reports right now. A lot of hearsay, a lot of course, all they're interested in, they've talked to today. Brendan Donovan and Mackenzie Gore's name has been linked to the Yankees. But I don't know how good of an offseason this is going to be. And I think this winter meetings is going to be a definition of it.
Play on this team?
I mean, if we're going to look at it for what it is, I think left field is probably his potential, and then Jason Dominguez gets knocked out of his starting position once again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you doing? Like, Brendan Donovan is best at second. You have Jazz there, so unless you're also trading Jazz, so you're trading for a worse second baseman than your current second base. Like, I don't see it. I think he's a good player. I just don't see how he fits on this team.
Jazz is better. Jazz is a top 5 second baseman in baseball.
Donovan's a better fielder. I can make the argument there.
Okay, fair.
I mean, yeah, Donovan's a Gold Glove. Josh Chisholm exciting. Let me just.
Jazz is 30-30 last year. Jazz might be the best second baseman in baseball.
Catalyst.
I mean, he is up there. He is up there in a weak position.
I'll give you Cattell. Yes, Cattell.
But I want to say something real quick. I think the minute that Trent Grisham took that offer, in my opinion, and again, it's easy for me to say because it's not my money I'm spending. I'm not the one who has to make all the moves and the decisions and take the heat for it. But from a Yankees standpoint, you're a team that's consistently in the playoffs. You made it to the DS last year. You made it to the World Series the year before that. I know on paper, starting pitching is your strength, especially when Garrett Cole and Rodon come back. Again, I'm not as worried about Rodon. There's no guarantee Cole's going to be close to what he was. He might be as good. We don't know. What's stopping the Yankees right now? Go out there, re-sign Bellinger, the guy delivered for you, make him your left fielder, and just go all in. Do a massive trade package, including Jason Dominguez, for Screwball. You're not a team that's flirting with 81 wins on the cusp of a playoff spot. You're going deep into the postseason year after year. You haven't won one since 2009. Go all in for Screwball. What's
Corey,
stopping
you want to wear this hat? Corey, you fit this hat well.
They're not.
You fit that hat well, man.
What's stopping you? Your team's on
right.
plus. Why don't you go out there and get a difference maker that doesn't get you knocked out 3 games in a wild card round?
Tom, I'm disappointed this is not us.
Go
right
out
now.
there. Come on, let's go. Make your strength your strength.
I'm disappointed this is not us right
Corey,
now.
Corey, you know why they're not going
right.
We know why they're not going in, because Hal was just out there in the press last week crying poverty about the property tax that he pays to the city, which is less than the property tax if it was a square, if they just let him tax him. He made a deal with the city. He's got to write him $100 million check or an $89 million check, and he's complaining about it. Meanwhile, his counterpart across the bay is put a $500 million down payment on the biggest casino in the U.S. that's going to be built next to his stadium.
And which is the fact that they're allowing him to do that, and what we're in with gambling and sports in this and like this, the news recently is a joke.
The point is the idea that the Yankees can cry poor, and this is really where the Yankee focus should be, because Cashman has his hands tied behind his back right now. They're not going to 304. They're not going over intentionally. They're not doing it. And so that means if you re-sign Bellinger, you're done. If you sign a Mai or another pitcher, you're done. And the answer is you're going to bring back 95% of the same team as last year that we all know wasn't good enough, while the Red Sox and the Blue Jays are vastly improving their teams. All right.
The only argument I can make here, and if you're going to do one of those moves, you mentioned Bellinger and Imai, if at the very minimum, if you're bringing back Bellinger, you can make the argument, okay, your offense is a replica of last year. Your pitching, if everything works out, will improve by midseason. So there is an argument there. If you make that one re-signing, your team could potentially be just as good or slightly better than where it was in 2025.
But they could. No, they absolutely could if they were to do that. I disagree. I don't know if they will. I listened to an interesting podcast this week. Max Kellerman was on with Bill Simmons, and his point was that Hal Steinbrenner is frankly just too poor to own the Yankees at this point. He's like team poor. He does not have the money that Cohen, that the Dodgers ownership group has, that some of these new ownership groups. He doesn't simply have that money. All his assets are the Yankees. When George Steinbrenner brought the team, he had a successful business, and the Yankees were his plaything. This is all Hal has. I'm not saying Hal's poor. I think that whole thing was kind of overblown, but he does not have the kind of money to just blow it on things like the other teams do.
We know he doesn't have the wherewithal to write $100 million check as a sign. He doesn't. We discussed this when Soto signed.
It would hurt him.
It would physically hurt it. The problem is the fact that he's going out there and crying poor when the Yankees are the most.
That was overblown. It was like one comment in a whole interview.
But Tom, it does warrant the question. And the hypocrisy behind Hal, that now all of a sudden that the tables have turned on him, that the Yankees are no longer the big boy on the block, that the guy across town is richer than him by tenfold. The Rogers family in Toronto, it makes him look like a child asking his parents to protect Toys R Us. And the Dodgers have played the game better than the Yankees. It makes him look like a hypocrite that now all of a sudden he's being outspent left and right by three other teams in baseball after his team outspent everybody for 4 freaking decades since the 1970s. The Yankees were number one in payroll for 35 years out of 40 years since the 70s. And now all of a sudden he's turning around and crying poor because he's no longer the big guy on the block and he's advocating for a salary cap. I got a problem with that. That's hypocritical. He should be ashamed of himself, and the fact that he won't go over a $304 million tax that was meant to keep his buddy across the pond in check is insane. He looks like an absolute downright hypocrite. And the Yankees and Cashman's coming out there and saying, I got my hands tied. That's what he's telling everybody. I have no maneuverability to do what I need to do to make this win. That's what Cashman said.
It's actually one of the rare anti-Yankee takes that Joe's had that I actually completely agree with. I don't know if you feel the same, Tom, but like
yes, it's basically what I was saying. Yeah, Hal is frankly too poor to own the Yankees. To own the Yankees in 2025, 2026, he does not have the money to swim in those waters with the other big fish. He doesn't. Mm-hmm. And listen, I don't feel bad for him, but listen, he'd be better off just selling team. And if we want to go down frankly the rabbit hole of it, he was never even supposed to own the team, right? His brother was supposed to own the team. Hank died, so that was unfortunate. And then, Hal just kind of got it thrust upon him. I don't think he ever wanted to do it. And he'd be better off, frankly, just selling the team.
If that's the case, there are other siblings in the family. I mean, Jessica Steinbrenner, Jennifer Swindle, who's been in the. She actually goes to the games. She's there.
Always there.
We see her. We see her. We don't see Hal. Hal showed up 2 times this year outside of the recent presser. He showed up for a beer policy presser, and he showed up for Donald Trump. That's it. That's all we saw Hal for.
Here's the thing with Hal. If you're crying poor and you really are at the margins as much as you claim, which they're not, by the way, do you know how many media companies and holding companies
I agree with that too.
And all that stuff that they're making that are loosely affiliated with they're making so much money. Open the books. Show us.
I agree. But there's a difference between them not being profitable and them having the reserves that some of the other teams have. There is a difference between those two things.
Yes, he's not worth $25 billion. I get that. But the idea that the Yankees have to stay under 305 to be profitable, and
when they have an $8.2 billion valuation. Right?
That's the part I have. Also, Jacob, let me ask you something. There rumors are out there that the Toronto was the highest offer for Soto, A, and B, Toronto was also down to the wire with LA on Shohei Ohtani. So Toronto's offered 2 players over $700 million. And rumor is Toronto offered more than the Dodgers. So,
Right.
so if you don't think, and Rogers family, by the way, is like the biggest telecommunication family in the world. So if you think that the Rogers family can't play in the pond with the Yankees, you just wait. If they sign Tucker, just wait. That team is primed. And they spent like they're primed.
Real quick, too, because I know we do got to shift segments, but listen, maybe he needs to go 50-50 with another owner, all right? And I just, for shits and giggles, I Googled it.
Kroenke.
You could have an owner partnering who has the experience, who's worth $2.5 billion, according to Google. I don't know if it's accurate, but according to Google, an owner worth $2.5 billion experience who loves the game. Jeff Wilpon, worth $1 billion more than Hal Steinbrenner right now, according to Google.
All right. Well, from that, we're just gonna. I'm not even gonna acknowledge that. All right, let's talk YouTube. Joe, the latest and greatest on YouTube.
Yes, we're live on Instagram and X, but YouTube is our preferred platform. Why? We can interact with you in the chat. Some more so than others. Thankfully for that. Thank you, Rich, for being selective and who you share the comments of. But you could go over to YouTube, type in Empire State of Baseball, join the conversation. We have over 540 subscribers, so that's climbed in the last 2 weeks, which is great. We're trying to get to 750, right? And we're going to do another giveaway at 750. We're currently working on a couple items that we might give away. So help us get there. Send it to your parents. Send it to whoever people, your father doesn't know how to subscribe on YouTube. You take his phone and type it in and subscribe for us. We appreciate that, and it helps us grow.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Joe. And while you're on YouTube, by the way, more for those who are just viewing us live, if you didn't check out our off-season agenda episodes, maybe a couple of them are out of date because Dylan Cease did not fall to the Mets according to at least in Corey's plan. So there were some outdated things, but a lot of good content there. So make sure to go check out either of our two, either of our two off-season agendas, episode number 148 for the Yankees and episode number 149 for the New York Mets. It was a lot of fun, so make sure to go check out those episodes. A lot of work went into those two. All righty, let's move on to the final part of today's show, and that is our off-season predictions, and which has become now a tradition here at Empire State of Baseball, where we're going to go through the top 20, or at least in our opinion, the top 20 free agents and trade targets that are still available and where we think they're going to go. So we're going to go by position. And we're going to start in with the infielders. Now, we're not going to, kind of go through every single player, but I'll just pick out a few things here. And I see a lot of Boston Red Sox logos in this first graphic here. Pete Alonso going to the Red Sox, according to Corey, according to Tom. Alex Bregman returning to Boston, according to Joe and I. Ketel Marte going to Boston. I mean, Corey Favs, you got the Red Sox already loading up here with Alonso and Ketel Marte. You trying to kill me?
I mean, listen, it's a team that it's interesting because they got a lot of capital they could go ahead and move around. So I could certainly see them being active. Alonso, again, just costs money right now. He's just money. And they got the prospect capital to make a splash or two. So Ketel Marte, second base is a position that they're rumored to be looking at. Ketel Marte, that there's no better second baseman you could try and acquire right now out there. So I just thought it was interesting. I think they're going to have a very, very active offseason. We know they're not afraid to make the splash. They did it last year with Garrett Crochet. That's one that very much so panned out. So I do expect the Red Sox to have an active offseason. We'll just see who ends up going where.
They scare me. They're already been active thus far throughout this offseason. Made a couple trades. Of course, their biggest move was bringing in Sonny Gray to be a middle part of that rotation that Garrett Crochet leads. One of the things I think about with Boston is I think they're also trying to kind of cover themselves for losing, not losing, but trading out Rafael Devers, losing that kind of star power midseason, because I would say with Rafael Devers on that current team, and we don't know how things would have worked out, I think that was the sort of player that Boston was sort of missing in the middle of that lineup, early into the playoffs. So you could potentially see this as an offseason where they kind of can make up for that star power. Definitely could see a Pete Alonso if it doesn't work out. I ultimately think, and Joe is under the same breath here when it comes to Pete, I think Pete's ultimately going back to the Mets. And I think that of the two re-signed guys you currently have, I think that's the guy you need to prioritize the most, Pete Alonso.
Yeah, and I think the Reds. I think we have the two right teams. I think it's going to be between Boston and the Mets. I do think that it's one or the other in terms of Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman for Boston, and that's just what I have right now. I got Bregman going back to Boston. I think he fit that team like a glove. I don't see why he would want to leave if the years and money are there for him. Again, Pete Alonso is the homegrown player. Why would you want to leave the Mets? So at the end of the day, I think what will happen is if Bregman signs first, I think Alonso's market could soften real quick because the Boston will then not be willing to go anywhere close to where Pete wants it in an effort to save a couple bucks. So that's kind of just how I have that playing out.
A lot of beat on Ketel Marte moving this offseason. Tom, you don't have Ketel Marte moving anywhere.
I don't. And spoiler, that's going to probably be a bit of a trend for me as we go through these players. You touched on a little bit earlier. I think the impending lockout and CBA and what is going to happen, we saw with so many players taking qualifying offer. I think there's going to be a lot of teams willing to just sit on their players and see what happens because it seems like everything is on the table. And I wonder if teams are going to say, you know what, we don't want to commit to trading, a Ketel Marte who they have under control for another, 5 or 6 more years. Mm-hmm. We don't know what the CBA is going to look like. We don't that you could be massively overpaying for Ketel Marte on a trade right now. You could be getting him for a steal. I just think that uncertainty is gonna keep a lot of these players, maybe other than the guys on expiring contracts, maybe they'd be more willing to move. I think guys who are locked up for past 2026, I don't see them moving.
We have another page of infielders here as we continue with our offseason predictions. And we enter the Japanese market here. Munetaka Murakami, Kazumo Akamoto in the middle of that. And a lot of New York logos in that row there.
Well, Corey and I are agreed on 6 of the 8 guys so far. Corey and I agreed on.
Look at that.
Akamoto to the Mets here. Corey Favs, let's hear it from you. And then Tom on why you got Akamoto of the Japanese talent going to the New York Metropolitans.
Yeah, I bet you Tom and I probably have a very similar answer here. And, both of us had Alonso going elsewhere. So the Mets then have a big hole at first base. They also have a hole in left field. Brett Beatty is going to be the everyday third baseman, but he might not play every day. They might want to give him a blow here and there. Akamoto plays all those positions. He's a corner infielder / corner outfielder, first base, left field, the 2 biggest ones. The Mets have also proven they're not afraid to invest in the international market. Obviously, they got Senga. I know it was the prior regime with Epler, but it was Steve Cohen. They were clearly in Yamamoto when he was out there. So I think the Mets aren't afraid to take that gamble with the international free agents. And Akamoto just fits from a positional standpoint, just trying to change things up exactly what they're looking for.
His stock also seems to be rising a lot, where Murakami seems to be falling, where there's a huge question and concern over his strikeout rate, his rate against high velocity, which he's going to see more and more in Major League Baseball. So I feel like his stock is falling, and where do flailing stocks go? They go to the Angels. So that's why I think Corey and I both sent him there. They'll spend $200 million on him, and they'll hit 220 there.
Big gamble that doesn't pay off.
Yeah, I think Akamoto's a really good player, and I agree he fits what the Mets are looking for. And he seems to be on the rise, and I think he's gonna be definitely sought after from a lot of teams.
One of the notes from Cashman's comments yesterday was the fact that the Yankees are going to have to look a little bit more right-handed, as they should. Right now, they're very lefty. As of now, your only righties in the lineup is Judge, Stanton, and Caballero. And, Stanton's due to miss time. Caballero is not going to be at that shortstop position for long, although he gets supplanted by another right-handed hitter. So the Yankees have to get righty. Okamoto, I like for the spelling of first base and third base. If the Yankees want to get a little bit creative with the versatility and to keep Ben Rice in the lineup on days that Okamoto plays first, Rice can potentially catch on those days, those seldom days that they're talking about that Bryce could potentially go behind the plate. On certain days that they want to sit McMahon against a lefty, that's where Okamoto could play third base. Rice stays in the lineup at first. So there's some versatility and flexibility there. And with Okamoto's current market value, the Yankees need to get right-handed. I think this is a move that does make sense on the low end. So I do have the Yankees making that move for Okamoto. But I want to flip it, Joe, to the other Japanese part here in Munetaka Murakami. You have him going to Arizona, but as you see across the board, a lot of indifference on where Munetaka Murakami's market is, because I think this is a player that a couple of years ago, a lot of folks thought like, okay, he's going to be a sought after player come this offseason. And then kind of reading through the metrics and underlying numbers, I don't know if his market is as attractive as we once thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I got him somewhere out west. Arizona makes a lot of sense, especially if they trade Ketel Marte. They're going to have a soft reset kind of. And they traded Suarez last year. They traded Naylor as well. They lost Christian Walker. So they have holes on the corners. I think he would fit that team well. That small ballpark. We know he's got tremendous power. So I think that's a good spot for him. But it's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where exactly he goes. I think the Angels is a good pick. I think Corey and Tom did a good job with that as well, especially kicking Rodon out the door. Thank God. So I think that's definitely an option as well. It's going to be interesting, but I think you're right. I think Okamoto's stock is rising. I think Murakami's stock has fallen off when we originally heard of him as this prolific power hitter. I think there's a lot of nervous about whether or not he can hit a major league fastball on a consistent basis.
JT Realmuto also on our list. The guys are feeling the Philadelphia Phillies. I went to the Cubs. I think it's going to be I think Realmuto is going to have a change of scenery here. Went with the Cubs. I didn't like a lot of the options at a potential where Realmuto goes. And honestly, outside the Cubs, I think going back to the Philadelphia Phillies is probably where he's going to end up at the end of the day. Eugenio Suarez, third base market is really just top heavy with him and Bregman at the top of that. So Suarez should have a lot of teams that are going to be interested in his service, especially after the year he had with the amount of home runs he hit. All right, let's move on to the outfielders. And on our outfielder slide, we have some of the more top free agents here. We got Cody Bellinger, Kyle Schwarber. I know he's a DH, but we have him in the outfielder list. Kyle Tucker, and then we have a trade candidate in Steven Kwan. Now, let's put the focus on where the majority of the New York logos are. We'll start at the top of Cody Bellinger. Corey and Tom think Bellinger is headed back to the New York Yankees. Tom, you still feel that confident after leaving us with these predictions?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel as confident as I did last week when I sent this to you. But I do think he fits so much of what the Yankees need. They need a left fielder. They need a first baseman. He can play both. Yes, he's a lefty, but he is the best lefty on lefty hitter in the game of baseball. He's better than most righty hitters against lefties.
100%
in baseball. So, and I think with his dad playing with the team, I think he fits the look of what the Yankees want to be, and I just think he's a guy I could see them. I could see them giving Cody Bellinger we're going to look at it like the DJ LeMahieu contract, where it's going to be like, oh, they gave him the 2 extra years, and we'll just hope things are okay. That's how I could see them getting him. I don't know what his exact and projected market is. I don't know if one of you guys know, but I could just see the Yankees feeling that they need to re-sign him and giving him maybe 2 extra years, and it maybe comes back to bite him in the butt like it did with DJ. But that's just how I see it playing out.
Yeah. Joe, you have him going to the New York Mets. Shocker. What a stellar offseason thus far for your New York Metropolitans based on these graphics.
And again, I'm trying to hedge between him and Alonso. I think one is probably a Met. I don't think both are probably Mets at the same time. But this is a guy that Stearns would, I think, values. He can play 3 different positions. He can play 4 different positions. He can play all 3 outfield positions. He can move to first base in a pinch. If they value their prospect in Carson Bench, they could put Cody in center field and Bench can go into left field for the time being. If they think Cody's better in left field and Taylor's in center field, that's fine. If they need somebody to play first base because they couldn't find a first base, that's fine as well. So I think the versatility, the fact that he is a good defender, I think all of that coupled together is what it makes him such an appealing target to a GM like David Stearns.
Yeah, fills the holes that we mentioned before on one of the previous slides. You saw where first base, left field, and DH were kind of light on the Mets end. For me, again, when we're looking at the 304 threshold, this is a prediction. This is not a want list. So my prediction is that he's not going to come back to the Yankees. I think the Mets go in another direction with that position. I do think he ultimately goes back to the Los Angeles Dodgers of all teams. And I think this is going to be the Dodgers' big move for their offense. So the rich get richer with Cody Bellinger going into that fold, goes from being a number 3 hitter with the Yankees or potentially like a number 5-6 hitter with the Dodgers, which is insane to even think about. So that's Belly. Now we're going to really work on this slide because this is where a lot of star power is, but let's work down to the big one, Kyle Tucker. So a lot of confidence that Tucker's market's going to probably be with Toronto, the Dodgers. It's not just Corey, Joe, and Tom that put that out there. It's what a lot of beat reporters are putting out there. Tucker met with the Blue Jays reps in Dunedin recently. But Corey, on Tucker going to the Toronto Blue Jays, do you believe that is what is separating the Toronto Blue Jays from being a World Series team or World Series winner rather than just a World Series team?
It's definitely possible. And the last several off seasons, the Blue Jays have always been all in on the biggest prize of that offseason and keep falling short. I know they were in on Soto, Yamamoto. There was a point that people thought the Blue Jays might be the favorite. So I think this is their time to make a splash, especially coming off a World Series loss. I think this is the time they finally go all in and get the guy. I do think the Blue Jays, as opposed to another team, probably have to go a little bit more above and beyond because if it's the same money, you're probably taking the United States. It's less taxes. So the Blue Jays do have to go a bit over on that standpoint. I think it makes a lot of sense. I could also, again, I see Rich, you got the Phillies. Tom, I see you got LA. Joe's with me with the Blue Jays. I think these are probably the 3 teams. I can really see the Dodgers make the big move again, of course, and everyone would be upset. I just think this would be the perfect move for the Blue Jays. Third time. They always say 3 strikes are out. Well, third time's the charm for the Blue Jays. They finally get their big ticket acquisition.
This was the easiest one for me, honestly. When Rich sent me the list, I said he's going to be a Dodger. Like he's so obviously going to be a Dodger. They need an outfielder. He's the best outfielder. They will spend the money. They're not afraid to spend the money. I think he's so easily a Dodger. I just don't see. I just can't see it another way.
My Phillies prediction came off. They're losing Schwarber, Realmuto, and Ranger Suarez in free agency. That's a lot of money coming off the books. And that's a lot of money you could put right into Kyle Tucker to fulfill one of the outfield spots. You still have the flexibility of the DH. If you ever need that for Tucker down the line, even with Harper, who's still playing first base. I think that is a good fit for Philly. Could really see that. Joe, obviously, you have him going to Toronto in this mix. Yep. Joe, let me work on you. We'll work on the player right above Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber. Very interesting market for Schwarber. A little bit all over the place, as you can see with our predictions here. Most recently linked to the New York Mets, which I know has been an ask for your end, but you have him going to his hometown in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah. I heard this a few weeks ago that the Reds were in on him. And I look at the Reds team and I ask myself what they're missing. And I like their starting pitching. I think they need some bullpen help in the back end, but they need a thumper in the middle of that to tie that lineup together. And what else? Tempt Schwarber. If he doesn't want to leave the Phillies, tempt him with his hometown team. And you know what? The other thing about Cincinnati has that nobody else has, They got Terry Francona. They got
Kyle Schwarber doesn't give a shit about that.
Unquestionably one of the best managers in baseball. I think that's a recipe for them to really say, this is our guy. He will hit 55 home runs a year in that ballpark. No problem. I think it's a match that the more I think about it, it makes sense. I don't know if Cincinnati will spend what it's needed to get him, but I see if they're in the neighborhood, I think they could tempt him to leave Philadelphia.
A little bit of news here, not no transaction, but speaking of Cincinnati Reds, a former Cincinnati Red, Aroldis Chapman is going to be playing.
That was Kyle Schwarber. I just don't see that happening. I don't know if I necessarily agree or believe that he's going to go to the Diamondbacks. I just think he'd be a ton of fun there, and I think he may hit 60 homers at elevation. I think he would be so fun. I think I just feel like he is Phoenix, and he would fit in perfectly there.
And the guys, I guess, want to talk me off the ledge or put an arm around my shoulder when it comes to Steven Kwan. I'm still in the game of the Yankees need a leadoff hitter. They need a pure left fielder. I've had enough of seeing them kind of play around with Jason Dominguez, whether he's a left fielder, a bench player, just a guy who steals your bags. I'd rather see Jason Dominguez in a different organization, and in return, Steven Kwan. So I'm sticking with my offseason agenda plan. I'm sticking with my prediction. I know Corey, Joe, and Tom feel otherwise, but I'm still very confident that Steven Kwan and the Yankees are going to be linked in some talks for the next few weeks, and hopefully it means something big. So let's just keep it moving, though. And we're going to keep it moving into the pitchers. And on the pitchers end, we have Sandy Alcantara, who's going to probably be tossed around in trade talks here. Edwin Diaz, Tatsuya Imai, and Michael King. I want to work with Edwin Diaz first because we have a split on whether he's going to the Mets or the Dodgers. Shockingly, it's the Mets guys that think he's going back to the New York Mets, and the Yankee guys got him going to the Dodgers. Corey Favs, Edwin Diaz, and again, more thoughts on the Mets outbound closer.
Yeah, I just still have that gut feeling that it's going to get done. To Joe's point earlier, when you have a top closer in the game, it's hard to let him go. For the last 5 years, outside of the 1 year he was hurt, he was always a reliable guy, locked the door down. Never in my life as a Met fan have I felt comfortable going to the ninth inning than I have with Edwin Diaz. The guy could come in with bases loaded, no out. Sometimes he loads the bases with nobody out. Then he changes his cleats, and then he strikes out the side, and no runs score.
Oh, you'll love Devin Williams then.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But listen, I just think it's going to get done. And when you look at the Mets, and if they want to go back to where they were a few years ago, try to get to the NLCS. Well, first you got to make the playoffs. Make the playoffs, get to the CS, get over the hump of the Dodgers to get to a World Series. How are you going to let them go to the Dodgers? So I think you don't make your biggest rival in the National League that's not in your division, the Dodgers. Don't let them get your guy and beat you with your guy. Go ahead and get it done. Relief pitching is so valuable. You're going to end up trading top prospects to get another closer at the deadline because, again, you can never have enough relief pitching. You're going to end up spending player capital at the deadline to get another guy or two. Just spend the cash. Keep your prospects. He's already succeeded here. The fans love it. He loves it. Get it done.
Yeah. Tom, you're on the Dodgers end of that, making the rich even richer with their bullpen. We mentioned earlier how the Dodgers went in on Tanner Scott. Wasn't a great year for Tanner Scott. So your confidence in the Dodgers still going for top shelf relief pitching, even with the expenses they have into that bullpen already.
Sure, yeah, they'll sign him to the $150 million contract that's prorated over 38 years, and it'll be fine. It's just the Dodgers make the moves. The Dodgers press the button. That's what the Dodgers do. And I think I do think Edwin Diaz has enjoyed his time as a Met. I think he would enjoy being back with the Mets. I do think if the money is similar, the prospects of joining the two-time champs, the team that will be the prohibitive favorite to win the World Series next year. I think that's going to be a lot. And if the Dodgers really want him, they also can spend as much as the Mets can. So I just see him, I see the Dodgers doing it.
Let's take a step down to Tatsuya Imai. Joe, you and I were on the same boat of the San Francisco. I think the Giants, and I want to get your thoughts on it, and we'll expand it to Corey and Tom, who have Imai going to the Yankees. I think the Giants have been missing that one big free agent starting pitcher to land to pair up with Logan Webb. I think Imai is going to be that guy this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I don't know enough about Imai. I don't know enough about his thought process. I'm just thinking of where I would want to go. And he came out and he said he wants to beat the Dodgers. Well, where else is better to beat the Dodgers than San Francisco?
That was part of what he said. He also said he would be happy joining them. So
the Dodgers aren't going to be in on. The Dodgers aren't going to be in on them. They got enough starting pitching. They're not. I don't see the Dodgers making any moves in the starting pitching market, to be honest with you. I really think that it's now other people's. I think the Giants are going to be in on him. It just makes sense geographically. It makes sense from a need perspective, and it makes sense from a team that is competing directly with the Dodgers, have seen the Dodgers corner the market on Japanese stars, and now all of a sudden they've got it to a point where they really don't have to be in on this one. And the Giants can get a piece of the action as well. So that was kind of my assumption with Imai and why I think he's going to go to San Francisco.
Corey, you got Imai signing with the good guys, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk. He's not afraid to go to the East Coast. Again, we mentioned about wanting to beat the Dodgers. I did think about putting the Giants as my pick. But what bigger stage in the World Series to beat the Dodgers? And, doing that rematch of 2024. I do think the Yankees will be in it. Again, the Yankees went the distance with Yamamoto. It came down to the Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees as the last three teams to go ahead and sign him. So again, that's another team that showed they're not afraid to make a big splash in the international market. I know the whole money situation with Hal, and we were talking about that a lot earlier. We'll ultimately see what happens, but I do think if not the West Coast, if he does make that move to the East Coast, that supposedly has been rumored, he's not opposed to it, the Yankees make the most sense. I also thought about the Phillies as a surprise option here, but the Yankees are a bigger stage.
I think the financial part is where Imai makes sense for the Yankees, going back to the Yankees being run as a business, because I remember saying with Yamamoto and with Sasaki last year, even though the Yankees were never going to get Sasaki, the Japanese market is big. And I think they had such success when they had Matsui. I'm sure they made a ton of money in that market. Same with Tanaka, and other players in the past. I think Imai gives you a bigger return on investment than a Kyle Tucker does because of the other money you can make in Japan because of him. And I think the Yankees can justify that expense with him than they could with other players.
Yep.
I'm kind of surprised you guys, all of you guys have the Yankees making a major starting pitcher move. They got plenty of starting pitching. I mean, when Cole and Rodon come back, where are all these pitchers going? What you're going to send Heel or Tucker down?
You listen, you figure out that issue when you get there. You can never have enough starting pitching. And I think, Joe, you yourself would know, like that's key in Major League Baseball. Look, the Dodgers had 3 starting rotations last year going into opening day. They had 15 starting pitchers, and yet look who got hurt throughout the midseason. They were able to
starting pitchers, and you're paying 3 of them fortunes.
Sure,
so
and they're
spend another $20 million on a starting pitcher.
But Joe, you never know who's gonna go down with something. And
look,
the Yankees had a super rotation going into spring training, lost 3/5 of it by opening day. So again, I have no issue with them trying to go for another starting pitcher, especially and I'll use that to transition to Sandy Alcantara. Joe, hold your thought for a second. Okay. Sandy Alcantara, I'm not looking to go down the $25 to $30 million deal of Tatsuya Imai. Sandy Alcantara's luxury tax hit is $11.2 million. And it's a year of full control. And then I think it's a club option for a $21 million club option for Alcantara going into 2027, which may or may not exist. what I like about the Sandy Alcantara, look, last couple of years has been rough for Sandy ever since the Cy Young campaign. He had the surgery. He had a high ERA last year. Sort of rounded out down the stretch run, but Sandy is a pitcher that I like in the mid to bottom end of your rotation. Yes, Joe, if you get to the point where everybody's healthy, which never happens, by the way. Never. I've never seen it where the Yankees have a full staff and they have to figure out who they got to send to the bullpen or who they have to trade. Well, that's what you have July 31st and events like that for.
Yeah, but you're going to send if let's say you get Sandy or Amai,
okay,
but by the end of June, you're going to have to send down either Schlittler or Heel.
I think they trade Heel.
Sounds like a great problem to have.
You're not going to just trade him because one of the guys comes back. Like that doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense.
I think Heel is very, very in the market to be traded this offseason.
I think Heel and Schmidt are expendable, and Lauren's an option candidate.
You put a Heel in the deal for Stephen Kwan.
But why would you trade two guys who cost you nothing? They're making league minimum. They're good pitchers. Why are you gonna trade them and then sign and replace them with a guy making $20-something million?
Joe, I think the biggest thing though is if I can't convince the fan base that the offense is going to be better than what the Yankees are put out in 2025, I can at least convince you that their pitching can hang with any rotation in baseball head to head.
I can convince you of that right now.
Okay.
Right
now. Wait, hold on a second. Right now with the current Yankees rotation?
Well, you're just assuming Cole and Rodon are coming back.
I don't know, but we don't know what version of Cole and Rodon are going to show up by midseason.
Well, you're paying the two a combined $65 million. You got to bank that their version's going to be good. Otherwise, you're screwed anyway. Doesn't matter who you bring in. If Cole and Rodon come back and they stink, you're done. There is no rebounding.
So, I mean, hold on a second here, Joe. And I'm not going to spoil it because we'll get to the last side here. Actually, I will get there. Joe, you have the Yankees making no move this offseason.
I'm going off of what
not one
major move. No major.
Not one. Let's get to the last slide, by the way, folks. So here's our fifth slide. We got Freddie Peralta, Tarek Skubal, Ranger Suarez, and Framber Valdez as a wrap up the 20 players that we're profiling here. Of course, Framber Valdez's market's heating up. Links to the Mets and the Orioles. The three of us, surprisingly, Joe, the only one not in on the Mets signing Framber Valdez. I'll get to that shortly. But, of course, Tarek Skubal getting traded to the New York Mets, according to Joe. So, Joe, based on all of this list, and I don't know if it was fun, if it was an oversight, if it was just Joe being Joe, the Mets are making this insane Christmas list of moves, and the Yankees are doing fucking nothing.
Well, again, I have to go the Yankee. I didn't say the Yankees would do nothing. It's just the major moves. The Yankees had a couple back end bullpen arms. They might add an outfielder that can platoon. But overall, I'm going off of what Cashman and Hal have said, which is the Yankees don't have the flexibility and money to spend right now. I think they were being honest. And I don't have Kwan moving. I think Kwan is a target that they would like, but I'm sorry. As far as the Mets are concerned, Diaz and Alonso have a very high chance of being back. They need a top-end starting pitcher, and maybe if Skubal doesn't move, I know we didn't have Joe Ryan on this list. That would be my number 2 option. Freddie Peralta's clearly on the table as well. It just so happened in this exercise, Skubal's on this list, so I'm going to assume that Skubal is available. And in a perfect world, I think the Mets should get Skubal. Absolutely. He is the top pitcher available, and the Tigers have done nothing to say he is not available. If the Tigers said that they're keeping Skubal, they have not come out and said it. And why would you do that if you're not considering trading him? If you can consider trading him, you're probably going to, because they're not going to retain him. They're not paying him $450 million. So for me, the Mets need a frontline starting pitcher. I don't want anything to do with Framber Valdez. I'm sorry. I know, Corey, you can explain why you want him. I don't want him. I do not want to pay this guy $200+ million over 7-8 years. That's not Stearns' style. He is not Skubal. I don't want him. I don't blame. I'd rather go. The guys on the trade market are all better than him. Skubal, Peralta, and I'll take Joe Ryan over Framber. So all three of those guys I'll take before I sign Framber to eight years. So that's just my thing. I think Skubal is probably their prime target. If Skubal does not get traded, and you're right, he stays with Detroit, then I think they'll pivot to the Peralta, to the Joe Ryans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to give Valdez a 6, 7, 8 year deal. Again, once you get into that 6, 7, 8 years, you're going to be talking 200 million plus, and I don't necessarily want to do that either.
No.
I would hope they can get him at a shorter deal with more money. Maybe absolutely most 5. Again, I don't know what the Valdez market's going to end up being. I went with the Mets here because I do think where there's some smoke, there's some fire. And the Orioles are the other team in the mix. It seems like in that smoke, there's fire type thing. So we'll see what happens. But Valdez solves the biggest issue that the Mets have had last season. It's getting quality starts. It's having a guy every 5th turn in the rotation. Then every 5th day, he's going up. It's his turn in the rotation, goes out and gives you 6+ innings. The guy broke Jacob deGrom's quality start record, consecutive quality starts. What was it? 25, 30. It was somewhere in that upper 20 ballpark that he had like a year or two back. He solves their biggest need. He's been there. He's done that. He's won with Houston. Again, I'm with Joe. I don't want to give him 200+ million. I personally don't, but it's not my money. We'll see what happens. I think they might be able to get him on a slightly shorter deal, just depending on how his market shakes out. Maybe you throw in some vesting options. That gives you the extra years potentially based on innings pitched, whatever you want to do, and see how it shakes out. I do think if it comes down to the Mets versus the Orioles in a bidding war, I trust the Mets to get it done. But ultimately, we'll see what happens.
Tom, you got Valdez going to the New York Mets here, and you didn't stick to your trade stipulation. Although you have Skubal staying with the Tigers, you do have Freddie Peralta on the move to the Braves. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I felt like I had to at least move someone. And listen, the Brewers always move these guys. This is like the Brewers' MO, is they trade the guy with the last year. This is Peralta's last year of control, right? Then he'll be a free agent going into next year. The Brewers have always traded those guys, and I think they will. I had them going to Atlanta just as a team, looking to rebound. What a weird half decade they've had of winning World Series and having this impenetrable core, then that core just falling apart. And I think there's still a big market team, or maybe like a next level of a big level market team. And I think Peralta could fit in well down there and kind of round out that rotation. That's just kind of where I saw that. It's where I
got one extra credit question for the room here. Real quick. Of all the moves you guys predicted, which one of the 20 do you feel the most confident that is going to happen? Corey, we'll start with you, then Joe, then Tom.
Which one of the 20 do I feel most confident is going to happen?
Let's say trades off the market, because I think for some of the guys to stay, that's not saying.
Sure. Of the free agent signings.
Yeah.
Okay.
So trades off the market, what do I think most is going to happen? I'll tell you what. I think I'm going to go Edwin Diaz with the Mets. I really think they're going to bring him back. I really do.
Yep. I'm going to go Tucker with the Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays have looked at themselves, looked how they brought the Dodgers to the brink, and said, if it's not now, when? And they are willing to go all in. I think they also smell weakness in their own division. I think the Yankees have shown a little bit of weakness this offseason in the rhetoric. Boston is getting stronger, but that's my I think Tucker's going to Toronto.
Tom?
I think Kyle Tucker is going to be a Dodger. The Dodgers need an outfielder. It's the most attractive team to join to win a World Series, and they have as much money as anyone. I don't see why they wouldn't, and they don't have a bunch of holes. They can kind of just, it's like collecting luxury watches. They can just I'm just gonna take this Rolex. That's where they're at this point. I think they're just gonna add Tucker, and good luck.
I'm going to go a little bit more boring. I'm going to say the re-signing of Alex Bregman to the Boston Red Sox. I think just it makes a ton of sense for Boston, who lean a little more left-handed. Bregman was a great part of their 2025 campaign. So I definitely see Bregman in on a multi-year deal, sticking with Boston there. That's it. Those are your off-season predictions, folks. So with that, we're going to start winding things down. And because we ran a little bit late, we're going to skip extra innings for tonight. We've been usually chucking them out after each off-season episode. Give ourselves a little bit of a break here, but we'll have extra innings back following our next episode of Empire State of Baseball, which is going to take place in 3 weeks' time. But let's go through some housekeeping notes. Socials first. Corey Favs, Instagram, man, got a lot of good reels out right now. Let's go.
Yep, go ahead and follow us at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram. You'll find our archive segments, meme reels, previews for the show. You'll name it. It's on Instagram. Again, at Empire State of Baseball. If you're watching us there, thank you. We really appreciate it. Go ahead and follow us on YouTube, though. It's a better viewing experience, and we can see your comments live on the show.
100%. And make sure to give us a follow on X while you're in that social game at ESB Podcast. Give our subsidiaries all a follow at ESPNYM, at ESPNYY. If you want to follow us all individually, you can do that as well. At Corey Favs, at JR Pugs, at Rich J. Rivera, at T Wospil. Make sure to check out our weekly space on ESPNYY. It is called The Bronx Take. It's about anything and everything affiliated with the New York Yankees, as we're on a weekly schedule and talking about what's the happenings with the off season. And of course, like I mentioned, Extra Innings follows our Monday shows, but we're going to take a break for tonight. So we'll be back for the next one, which is going to take place on December 29th. It is going to follow this really special episode of Empire State of Baseball, which now officially becomes a tradition. It is the second time we're rolling this out. It's our year-end spectacular, and it won't just be us here on your screen here, or however you're viewing us. We're gonna be joined by every host at Empire State of Baseball. That's going to join us for our Big Apple debate, which is going to kick off our year-end spectacular, and then we finish things up with the ever so controversial Empire Elephant to finish off the 2025 year of Empire State of Baseball. And then a favorite of us down the line. Again, make sure to keep getting those ballots in, because our next episode following our year-end spectacular is going to be our Hall of Fame special. That's going to take place on Monday, January the 19th. That's what's in store for ESB. One last episode, Corey Favs, for 2025 to come. Tom, Joe, what do you got for the group? Corey, wrap this damn thing up.
Nothing. Just everybody enjoy the holiday season. Take moments to step back from the craziness, and hopefully Baseball Santa will bring you a new toy.
Only this podcast can be scheduled to go for less than an hour and to go an hour and a half.
Listen, it was a great show, great year. I know we got one more to go this year, and hopefully by the time we meet next time end of the month, we have a lot of moves for both New York teams. But time will tell. Maybe we'll have a move tonight. Who knows? But thank you again, everyone, for joining us. This was episode number 150. Join us next time for 151. You got to catch them all. Take care.
Happy holidays.